welcome, and yeah, let's get started. So, um, let's see how this technology works here. Technology mustn't give us a problem. Okay, let's see if we are live in the group. I think we are live. All right, so guys, welcome, and yeah, let's have a discussion, guys. So, as I said, we're supposed to go live today at 12. I just had a series of day full of meetings, which was interesting. So we couldn't get to be live at the time we were supposed to be in. So first of all, I want to welcome everybody on our Real Estate Wealth group. If you're just joining us right now, you're somebody who's new, welcome to this group. This is our group for real estate investors by real estate investors. We just talk everything real estate in here. And most importantly, I think we focus mainly on, how we can help each really real estate investor grow their business in one way or the other. If you've been through our content, you see a lot of content that we upload weekly on this group. May it be like ebooks, may it be, we have a new guide actually, guide to investing in real estate investment in during COVID. Actually, it's good for first-time investors and also existing investors as well. And we do ask questions. If you can see, there are a lot of polls you can fill up in there to say what's the biggest thing that is, an obstacle for you to actually get, successful in real estate investing. We have things like property finance. How do you get an investor, and how do you get a mentor, or how do you get started, or how to identify new techniques to scale your business as well. Because some of you guys are already existing investors, and the big question is, how do I, scale my business? And all those topics are the things that we cover in this group, and many, many more. So I think that is important based on the climate that we're having right now. COVID has changed a lot of things. We're agreeing on that. And also, it's like, if you can't beat them, enjoy them. And we have to also be part of the change that's happening as real estate investors as well. This week, we announced on the 29th of March that we're going to be having a discussion about student protests. We also going to have a discussion about NSFAS funding and effects on student accommodation investment. So this is basically what's going on in the student sector, because it's affecting all of us who are investors in that sector, one way or the other. And we're just having a discussion. I love this conversations to be a discussion more than an expert opinion or anything else, because I want you guys to also ask questions, tell us what you guys think. And in the future, we will also be inviting guests in such discussions that we're going to be having as well. The most important part there is, figuring out exactly what is going on in the student accommodation sector right now with the strikes that are going on. There was supposed to be a national shutdown, and also the NSFAS funding, and a lot of students actually who were more than what they invested intake in 2021, who got, to graduate high school with a bachelor's degree, which is also another situation that, our country is sort of facing, and also affecting our sector one way or the other. So the big question a lot of investors have is then, what do we do now? And look, before we actually go into the details of that, we are aware that we're living in a year of comfort, which is 2020, which is an interesting year. And, it looks like, everything is on Zoom. So we're also on Zoom as well. I just saw this video actually that just showed me that we're living really in the year of comfort. People are working from home, and, you're wearing a shirt here, and you're wearing a sweatpants, or what do you call those things? Or boxes at the bottom. I think PJs for ladies it would be. And that's exactly what type of environments that we're working on right now. And this video made me laugh very much when I saw this video in Parliament, where somebody was appearing shirtless, in the background while they were having a meeting as well. I realized, look, it's 2021 right now, in the year of comfort. COVID-19 is there, but it doesn't look like it's going to be something that's changing very soon. It looks like it's something that's going to be staying here for a while as well. And we just have to adapt to see how do things work at this point with this, changes that we're seeing right now. This is, since I was born, I've never seen or experienced any wars or anything like that. So this is the closest we can get. Also, which is gonna, obviously cause us some financial um, repercussions in our economy. We're going to see how businesses are changing because of that, models, scaling, etc., prioritizing things that are essential, cutting costs, employees, etc. And we're already seeing that happening. And I don't think we've seen yet, the financial aspect of what's going to happen with COVID-19. I'm speaking to a lot of friends, and everybody have different opinions. People from the banks, they will also tell you about the criteria, getting tightened a bit. Not only just banks, but any institutional finance, institutional funding institutions, funding institutions in a sense. English just had me there. So all of them are just one way or the other tightening their criteria, and also just trying to de-risk as much as possible. Unlike previous years. So is it a good time to still invest? I think there's never been a better time, but also you just have to be aware of putting a pulse on the market. So let's just start with the discussion about what's going on with what went from a vet strike to actually a student strike. And unfortunately, there was a life lost as well in between that as well, which I think is not a good thing that, every time there is a protest or demonstration, there has to be somebody who loses their life before, the government responds. But at the same time, we must understand that the government is a big organization. So for them to make changes, just like in any big organization, it takes time. Not to take that as an excuse or whatsoever, but I just think that is something that we must also keep in mind as well, to say, look, it really, really takes time for them to turn around and then be able to give us results that we need. And also, we are an instant generation. We need instant results. Besides, some of the things are working within timelines. For example, the people who are striking, the students, I should say, who are striking, they were also looking at the registration dates from universities as well, which is something that is affecting the strike and the pressure on their side to say, hey, make a decision, and then let's see if people with debt, which is like the policy from the university saying, okay, if you have debt, then you can't register. So now with the COVID-19 affecting, the whole economy, one way or the other, affecting everybody financially, how do then students who maybe had parents who lost their jobs, or let's just say people who maybe they are caretakers. What's that word? There's a word that they use for that. The guardian, I think is a word. There's a word that they use, English word that they use for that as well. So those people lost their jobs, and then what do you do right now? So that's a little bit of a confusing situation there. And I think that's what a lot of people got caught off guard of, because or those who know that the NSFAS have requirements or threshold of around 350,000 per annum on a household income for you to qualify for that. So funny enough, 90% of the students in South Africa can qualify for this funding, which is a little bit puzzling, because that means more students than what obviously the government budget we're expecting. Right now, this year, we're actually qualifying because of those situations of COVID that just happened right now. And if you did a little bit of digging as well, you realize that around 500 and something thousand students were actually in, writing matric in 2020. Out of those, let's just say half, let's just less than half, almost half, they passed with bachelor's degrees, and universities can only take around 185 people in 2021. So that means that there was some sort of 16,000 or 20,000 students, which we're not sure what's going to happen to them, because the universities were not planning on that. So the intake this year is actually going to be a little bit higher in universities rather than the previous years, which we will also talk about the intake and the effects on landlords, student accommodation, of people who are investing in the market as well. But the most important part, I think, is that, we had a discussion about this to say, some of the contributing factors to the market of the student accommodation is the intake in universities, how many people matriculate in bachelor's, and then how many people can get into universities. But not just only that, university people, also NSFAS is covering TVET colleges as well. And so that means there's a lot of students right now who are looking for places to study, and they qualify and they have the results. And that's just more demand for the universities, and also more demand for their TVET colleges as well. So which is an interesting thing, I think, for the government as well, because I think they were not planning to see something like that. Plus, the economy was already in almost in shambles. We had Moody's rating before even COVID happened. So that was also another thing that, COVID, after COVID, we just, couldn't actually handle the pressure economically as a nation, I think. So I think that has a lot of effects to do with, what this strike is about. It's just people who were usually in the past were not in that 350,000 threshold of people who can actually qualify to get to the university through NSFAS. So I think, they were just struggling to say, okay, so if they have debt, so now that means they cannot be able to register. And registrations are closing at universities, and nobody was paying attention to that as well. So I think that a solution for those guys is still not sorted out yet. I think they're still busy with that. So we're just also putting, our thumb on the pulse on the news to see what exactly is going to go on with that. And also, I think the second part of it was a very weird one as well. Was that there was so much, as I said, there's 200,000 people who passed with bachelor's degrees, and that means a lot of people actually, went to the university, like the new students, and who qualified for NSFAS. They did not have any budget for that as well. I think they were not, budgeting for that, which is a very, very also unsettling thing about this entire situation as well, which I think, is what all the SRCs and people from different institutions, we're also, worried very, very much about. So I think the most important thing out of that is that the government was not well planning for so many people to graduate. That's just it. And also the COVID effects and the economic effects affecting more people who are actually just going to need the government aid. It's just causing a little bit of a problem there. And, that's exactly what I think the strike was starting for. So a lot of people who did a little bit of digging on the strike, they probably know all these points, but if you haven't, then this is just a little bit of a summary. I would encourage you to also go do your own homework as well to see what exactly causes the strike for students right now that was happening, and what was also about to turn into a potential national national demonstration or national shutdown of students, national shutdown of universities or higher institutions as well. So that thing was a little bit of a threat. So there were, back and forth between SRCs and the universities as well. And I think that is what the most important part of this thing coming to an end, or sort of an agreement, because we just got an email like saying, if you guys, I'll share the link with you guys as well. There's this careers website as well, where they share that all of NSFAS funding has been confirmed for the guys who are new, all new students who can qualify for TVET colleges and also for universities, and then they don't have to pay any registration fees. So it looks like the NSFAS people who are coming back were not having any problem with that. The only problem was with people who were just got approved for NSFAS and they were new. That's what the problem was as well. And then also the missing middle, which is being a little bit of a problem. I think some of the private landlords, as a lot of you guys in here, and a lot of us in this group as well, is we're worried about, okay, let's say I'm accrediting my place, I'm advertising, hey, NSFAS accredited, and then you come and staying in my accommodation. So what do I do if the NSFAS is not paying on time? The academic year has been moved a little bit further, and the students say they didn't get their money yet. So do I become patient? I have bonds to pay. I have, obviously other expenses on my own, or do I now have to look for cash students as well? And that's just a little bit of a situation there for also, investors as well to say, okay, I'm getting worried about, how this entire, NSFAS delays on, funding approvals, especially for new students, and who can show you proof that they've been approved by NSFAS, but they don't have the money. And also, the strikes, because most of the students actually went to strike. They were not even staying at the accommodations. If you had students or you were getting students at the time, that means you were doing good advertising and you were well ahead of the curve. Or mostly the people who came back were students from the previous year who were really liked, the properties, and then they're still coming back. So right now it's a little bit of a situation also for investors who are new in the market and did not have any tenants at all, especially if you're NSFAS accredited. So that's basically, I think, some of the things that, started the strike. So how does this strike, affect you as an investor? That's the big question, because we, as much as we interested in the strike, we're interested in what's going on in the market, we're interested in what's going on in our sector. If you're somebody who's specializing in student accommodation, you want to understand how does that affect you. As much as it's the news and it's happening, and we don't want it to happen to other students so people cannot study. I mean, we can't have a nation of people who are not educated at all. That's going to be a little bit of a situation there. I'm not sure how that would look and how that would benefit us as a nation entirely. But I'm not here to speak for the nation. I'm speaking for also my personal interest as somebody who invests in student accommodation as well. So I think another thing that got us, people who are the players in the market, was the Blade speech. Blade made a speech, our Minister of Higher Education. He made a speech, talking about, all returning NSFAS beneficiaries are still going to get their funding. And then he's spoken to educational institutions to say, please extend your registration dates. That was good as well. And then there were also possible talks of policy reviews on, the threshold of 350,000 per annum for NSFAS student to qualify, total income for the NSFAS student to qualify in. So like talk of, maybe they should extend that to actually accommodate, the changing market that's happening right now with parents who have lost jobs during COVID and who are under, new financial strains right now. And also there was a big talk about the new students who now qualify for NSFAS. I think we touched on that a bit. And I think also there was a little bit about the budget as well, which is an interesting thing. I thought when he spoke about the budget, I think you guys must also have a look at that. Next time I do this type of a live stream, we'll make sure that we have, relevant references for you guys to also have a look, just put all the information together. Besides, releasing an article that we actually just changing our format on our articles. You will see they're going to be a little bit more informative, more data driven. And I'm hoping you guys are excited about that as well. But we will also, just link in some references that can help you guys just get up to speed if you are not following on this trend of what's going on in the student accommodation market. So it looks like from the speech, he also mentioned that from 2018 to 2020, funny enough, the universities only were having around a budget of 17 billion rand for NSFAS. And then in 2020, they had 28 billion rand, which is a double that amount, which is interesting. I was not following that actually before this. And also, if you have a look as well, the TVET one went from 3 billion to 6 billion. So both the TVET and the universities' budget for NSFAS have doubled in the past two years, I think, and which is incredible. Is it 3-4 years now? Yeah, right now I think it's around 3-4 years, which is incredible. That shows that the government is actually committing to making sure that people get educated, and he spoke about the unemployment social grant, etc., other things as well. But my focus as an investor, I'm focusing on what affects me as somebody who's a player in student accommodation. I'm sure there are experts and other people who have interest in those things who would actually just give you a little bit of a bigger understanding on how that other things work about social grants and unemployment grants, etc. And there was an interesting, revelation to realize. Look, if the budget is doubling after every 2 years, and this year, because of the demand that we're getting right now, we're getting more people graduating from high school with bachelor's degrees than any other year, and we're getting a strike as well, and the strike has demands like, no, the students, if they're going to be studying using COVID regulations, they must get laptops which are not delivered, etc., and then they must not get they must get registration without any frustration of putting up, paying off their debt. I think that's the historical debt thing that you guys are seeing on TV a lot. And there's a lot of other demands as well that the SRCs put together. And I think if, oh, and the allowance to eat, I think that's also another thing we also we didn't touch on. But I mean, that's not too much what I'm focusing on, to be honest. And I think that if we're getting all these demands right now, how does that change a little bit of a landscape of your investment? What does that mean for you as an investor? Should you now get worried to say, okay, the student market, the student accommodation market is maybe becoming a problem? It can be, obviously, depending on how you look at it. I'm also curious to see what you guys think. So drop a comment on your thoughts about the situation that's going on right now with the protests, the budget, and also the new students who are coming in, and having more people graduating with bachelor's degree this year other than any year. Well, there's also a big financial crisis that's going on right now. So which is an interesting situation there. I think it's testing our government's management skills to see how can you deal with the fires. It's like an entrepreneur's life. You have to always, what do you call it? Try to switch off the fires all the time. And I think that's exactly what the government is going through right now. You have to worry about COVID vaccines, business, students starting, opening up everything. It should be a little bit of a hectic thing to manage, actually, entirely looking at, how things are going right now. But it's interesting. So with all of that and private landlords saying, look, I can't wait anymore for NSFAS to come. I'm going to kick you guys out by the end of the month. I need to get cash students so I can be secure. I have bills to pay. I have expenses. And on top of that, universities having delays. Universities are now having delays as well in terms of the privately owned student accommodation. The entire accreditation process is so slow. It's very, very slow if your property is new. And things are only picking up now. They have a backlog from last year because, there was a little bit of an early closure on, the. It's an interesting time to be in. Some people think, we must, wait and time it out. It's a matter of timing until we see how things are going to be settling this year. Not that the same things will be happening next year, but we can just assume that the pace that they're going now is probably going to be a little bit similar, if not a little bit more or a little bit worse. So we just have to assume, between the two, and depending if you're an optimist or if you're a pessimist as well. And I think that's also like a personal view of anybody or any individual investor at the end of the day. So those are like some of the interesting things that we see. We're like, okay, so what does that mean, for investors? Do I now still continue investing in student accommodation? And is there still like a demand? When the strikes affect my income? And what's the best way to secure myself while these things are happening? So this is basically my view. I'm going to give you my view, and I think most players in the field will give you also different views as well. They might be supporting a similar view. As we go forward, we'll start having a little bit more guests and, just have like a different perspectives as well. But my view is, you must just be putting a pulse on the market. That's number one. Know what's going on all the time. I think as an investor, if you're not well informed about things that are changing at all, you're going to be in trouble because things are changing very fast. And most of the time to your advantage without you knowing, like the doubling of the budget, more students enrolling in universities, meaning more beds are going to be required by the university, meaning much more demand. Good thing, And another thing is from Fees Must Fall in 2014, there was a compromise that was reached after the Fees Must Fall thing that went down. And I think even now there's going to be a sort of compromise that's going to be reached between the government and the students as well, which should benefit both people or both parties. And whatever the conclusion is that is going to be reached, which is going to cause this protest to stop, you must keep in mind that the year after Fees Must Fall, which is 2015, enrollment went up by 5% in most universities as well. 5%. So that means that if the university was taking around 41,000 people or students, per annum, it was the next year taking around 52 or 53,000 people as well. So you want to be, cognizant of, how does the strike really affect, and then the whole free education thing as well. It's an interesting It's an interesting idea. I think we must explore that a little bit more some other time to say, how does this free education thing really mean for you as an investor? But the 5% increase spike is something that I think this year we're seeing an increase because we already had a lot more people who passed with bachelors, and the universities had less people to take, or projected less people. They're projecting 184 or 185 people that they can be able to have as an intake this year. And let's just say 200,000 people passed with bachelors. So that means they have to accommodate that demand one way or the other. And they have to work very well with the Department of Higher Education, and also work very well with the minister as well. I think they'll figure it out, in terms of how they're going to work around those things. And besides, if there are returning students who are doing very well, but then they could not get back to university because of the registration issue, which has been the biggest problem right now. So you have debt, you can't register, then you're going to stay home. So that means that the numbers are not going to stay the same as the previous years as well. And with that in mind, and those students, let's say they're getting some sort of solution-based, government-based solution. The most popular government-based solution for students is NSFAS. I'm not saying they're going to have a NSFAS solution because they are still looking at solutions. But I would say that if they get a NSFAS solution, maybe perhaps by the cabinet looking at the policy reviews based on the 350 threshold. Maybe they say, okay, instead of 350, we go to 400,000 per annum as a household income for somebody to qualify. Of which, funny enough, 90% of students actually can qualify for this funding right now. There's just a few students who are above the threshold because of our country, or people call it inequality, and all the other different things as well. So those are some of the things what experts are saying. But in a nutshell, if most people still qualify for that and they increase the threshold, and that's also good news for you as an investor to say, okay, there's going to be more demand from universities from this year, actually going forward. And the strike is always causing more demand. 2015, we're seeing 5% increase after fees must fall. Don't quote me on this, but we might also see an increase this year and next year as well in terms of enrollment into universities, one way or the other. And I think that's a very, very good perspective to look at things, to say, look, not that students must always strike to get things done. Not that the demonstration are not necessarily, they're very, very key. I think they're good actually that the students also have their own voices. But for you as an investor as well, I think that is a good thing to look into, to say, okay, the 5% increase in the enrollment means that you are also going to be getting a little bit more demand in the market as well. And there was already a shortfall of beds. And then if most students, 200,000 this year alone is getting into a university, how much do you think, we're going to need in terms of the shortfall that we already had in before? So that means you're going to have a little bit more shortfall. Universities might have to change policies. The post offices might have to see, okay, we can only build so much reses, or we have so much reses currently. Maybe they're all full. Let's assume that. And then that means we have to increase the amount of beds we want from the privately owned student accommodation guys, which is us as investors as well. And I mean, if that's the case, then that means that there might be a good opportunity also for an extension in applications for this accreditation this year, hopefully, or else we're gonna help with it for a little bit longer for next year to cover the new beds, depending on how fast they'll be planning. But it will also change a lot of things actually for the universities as well. So that's an interesting scenario. We can also see as well, like as a shape, if we're just following what's happening with the past, and then we also just having a little bit of a projection on what would happen right now. Another thing is obviously the education is a basic right, so there's no way we can say we're going to scrape the basic right that we must have. But there is also this big rise of demand in TVET colleges. And I think investors are not seeing that. We're all focusing on the major universities. But these TVET colleges, if you can see the budget in 2018, it was 3 billion. Now it's 6 billion rand. And who is actually offering those TVET colleges accommodation? it has to be us as investors as well to also look into those opportunities to say, okay, there are opportunities that are coming up with this, thing, the budget, the students, and the amount of people who actually passed. Let's say 200,000 people from the 500,000 who wrote exams in 2020 got bachelors. Let's just assume thumbs up on this one to say, okay, 150 people or 200,000, another 200,000 actually went to TVET colleges. So that means if they have the capacity to handle those people, then that means those people are also going to need your help because the universities are not actually prepared to have, to house those people, all of them. And this is why if you go to a lot of TVET colleges websites, I encourage you guys to do this as well. Go check on their website. You will see that they're actually demanding people to help them fill the places up as well. However, the rates might be different, but I don't think that should be something that throws you off if you're a long-term thinking investor. All right, so in a conclusion, so what should investors do? I would say investors must focus a little bit more on student accommodation that has a possible NSFAS accreditation, or work towards getting it in the meeting the requirements of NSFAS, because it looks like NSFAS is going to be the way to go in student accommodation market. Private students, yes, they're still going to be there, but it's going to be very, very few, especially after this unemployment that's happening right now due to COVID. And also, your location really, really matters. What other options do you have? I think that's something that is very, very, very important. What other options do you have in terms of the location? Can the students just walk to school? Is it safe, etc.? Amenities and things like that. So location is something that's going to be very, very important as well. I think that investors must also focus on the location to say, look, am I investing in the right location? Is it on an incline or decline? I always tell my clients about that to say, hey, focus on locations that are on an incline, or focus on unhidden gems, unpopular places that are, very, very on the rise. That's also a very good market to find deals at the back end as well. And the last thing I would say, which is very important, is just putting your pulse on the market. Figure out what's going on in the market all the time. Keep up with this, sort of sessions. Next time, I think we will be having a few guests as well, and figure out exactly what's going on in the market. Watch the news. If you're an investor and you're a serious person, somebody said to me, I told them someday, like, I'm an entrepreneur. She's like, I think I mentioned that I don't watch TV. And just like, you're not a serious business person there. I'm like, okay, I obviously I defended myself at the time. But come back to think about it when I sat down, I'm like, she's right. How can you be a business person without actually knowing what's going on in the market, especially your market that you're specializing in? So I think that's also an interesting dilemma that a lot of us investors and a lot of us people who are in business entrepreneurs, one way or the other, we're not too focused on the news because obviously sometimes they're negative. But I'm just saying news that affects you as an investor. So I would encourage you guys to just put the pulse on the market, read articles. We're going to be releasing a little bit more articles about this. All this information right now is a little bit scattered. Don't worry, we're going to have some reports about student accommodation that are coming up. Just keep an eye on the website. There's a lot of changes that we're doing right now in terms of trying to add as much like real value to our investors as well. We have independent researchers who are going on the market as well in our team who are researching these things. And also, we're also just keeping the pulse on the market as well. It's always good to chat to you guys. And I'm happy to take all questions that are going to be asked after this live stream. Okay, Azim Haim is saying, Ezra, is this being recorded for us as I am traveling and I cannot focus on this presentation? Yes, Mohammed, this will be recorded. I think we will also have a recording on YouTube as well. So have a look at that. And I think this one we're going to leave it in the group. So some of the guys who are watching it on the replay side, just say replay in the chat, hashtag replay, so we can be able to see that you're watching it on replay. This will help us as well just to know how many people actually watch these episodes on replay. So this is the format that we're going to be taking going forward in our real estate wealth group. Keeping you guys updated with the market changes. We specialize in student accommodation. That's mainly going to be that. But also we're going to be bringing other experts who's focusing on other things, maybe sectional title, residential, whatever. And, it may be Airbnb or whatever it is, we're going to be bringing them in this group. So guys, get excited. Make sure you like this video if you're watching this. I think we got a question from, I just want to check. If I can get that question again. There was a question that was asked from Kanya, I think, and I think we need to make sure we answer that as well. So let's see the question from Kanya. And thank you, Mohammed, for joining us as well, man. I hope deals are going well that side. Let's see. I think, okay, I just need a moment. Technology is having me, so it's not giving me a chance. All right, so thanks for this, Ezra. My question is one, how are these protests for free education affecting the demand of rooms and investors in the sector? I think we touched on that. In a nutshell, every time there's a protest, we've seen that there's always an increase in enrollment. 5% happened in 2015. We're not sure what the percent would be this time. That's the pattern we've seen so far. If there's a decrease this time, it will be also a surprise as well. But the government always makes sure that they make a plan to approve a little bit more funding. And I think that that means more rooms for investors. That's going to be required from the university directly. And also that's more, business for you on your side as well. Department of Higher Education have their own criteria, but usually it's not the same as the one that you're getting from your local university. So whichever university you're based in, Cape Town, Johannesburg, Durban, wherever you are, just make sure that you're very, very familiar with their specific requirements, not the higher education requirements, because they just take the higher education requirements and then do a little bit of tweaking based on the patterns they've seen on the previous what do you call this thing? On the previous patterns. Oh, sorry guys, I saw somebody just said no sound in the group. Sorry, Puti, man, I hope that you get sound because Mohammed did get sound. He's saying, loved what I had of the presentation today. Very informative. Thank you very much, I appreciate it. And then I see Puti saying, thanks for the update, Ezra, 100%. Thank you very much, guys, also for joining me on this sessions. And Mohammed saying Airbnb and sectional title, that would be great. Definitely, guys. Definitely, guys. We're going to be keeping in touch on the pulse of the market to see what's going on right now, especially because there's a lot of changes. And it's a matter of timing how things are going to be going. We thought maybe right now it's April, so we thought maybe by March we'll have an idea of how the year's going to be going. But it looks like by March, also the government is still adjusting to what's going on right now. So it's a very delicate situation with COVID and what's going on at the moment. However, I think that as us as investors, you see English is having me again there. Us as investors, we need to be a little bit more proactive, need to be a little bit looking for solutions and looking for ways to solve problems, and also looking for ways to, to be able to innovate, to be able to stay relevant, and also to be able to provide value to our students continuously. And also our markets and also our tenants, whoever that you're working with. I think that's the most important part as well. Otherwise, guys, this is going to be the end of today's session. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I'm not seeing any hectic questions. I mean, we could have answered that as well. But I think the most important part as well is share this video with people who need to see it. It's probably going to be also on YouTube as well. So you can just take the link and share it. If you're online right now, like this video, and like this video, make sure that you leave a like there if you enjoyed this session. And I'm looking forward to having more of these sessions with you guys. Next time we'll get the time right. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day. Yeah, we will chat soon, guys. Yes, bye-bye.